Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.
Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of The Mediator with me, your host, Brian West, here to give you the top 8 headlines and developing news stories that made it in this week. Now, as usual, give you the top 8 local headlines and developing news stories that made it first, followed by a movie clip, a skit, a trailer, or something that's going on in the community, or maybe some pictures. And then I'll give you the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made it, folks. So let's waste no time. Oh, yeah. Let's get to it. Story number 1. Their life begins. Shane Barron has a report published May 5th explaining how 2,000 students were honored at the YSU spring commencement. Now, the report explains how 4 ceremonies included students earning dual high school diplomas and college degrees. Now, the article is long and is filled with youth potential from the local area and abroad. That's why story number 1 made it in this week. Story number 2, another Kill College Center drive. And money. The Vindicator has a headline published May 5th explaining how the Penguin Club has donated $100,000 to Kill College Center to the Kill College Center Drive. Now, this donation adds to a growing list of Kill College donations that have made recent headlines, thus getting the story into the top 8. That's why story number 2 made it this week. Story number 3. A storm is brewing in the local prison and justice system. Local families continue to seek help for their family members tangled in the justice web, the local justice web and the American justice web. John Seawer of the Associated Press has an article published May 6th. Now, this is after the death of a man who was restrained in an Ohio jail after deputies piled on him for several minutes, as stated in the report. Now, the report begins by stating that they did not try to save the man after he was basically dying. Now, this story could continue to leave the floor falling out from under the justice system as complaints continue to pour in from just about every corner of the United States. Some of these claims are racial. Some of them are just brutality. There's so much tied in the story, folks. This story is still developing. That's story number 3 made it this week. Story number 4. Delphi retirees are back in the headlines. The Vindicator has a report published May 6th explaining how Governor Mike DeWine, how his efforts to promote legislation supporting Delphi Corp's salary retirees is back in the headlines. Now, DeWine asks U.S. Rep. Mike Carey, Republican of Columbus, to co-sponsor the Susan Muffley Act of 2025, which restores the pensions terminated in 2009. Now, Delphi retirees have been in and out of the headlines in the efforts to get them what's owed to them. Now, Packard Electric Delphi, which was a GM affiliated parts supplier, filed for bankruptcy in October of 2005. That was a long time ago. Now, that's more than 20 years ago. Now, this involves 21,000 salary retirees. I have to make sure I get this right and emphasize what is happening. 21,000 salary retirees in the U.S. have been affected, with 5,181 of them are being from Ohio. Now, at the moment, a number of local Republicans are in support of the legislation. That's why story number 4 made it. Story number 5. Brown survives for another round for now, at least. David Skolnick has a report on the most recent primary race. Now, it appears that Mayor Jamel Tito Brown survived the Democrat ticket primaries by a hair of 61 votes, by beating Samantha Turner with more votes yet to be counted. Now, before the airing of this show, they were still counting ballots. Now, the article goes on to explain how the board plans to certify the primary election results by May 19th. The report goes on to explain how overall turnout in Mahoning County was 9.38%. That is low. with no Republicans on the ticket. That's why story number 5 made it. Story number 6, the Realty Tower story creeps back into headlines. Ed Ryan has a report published May 6, keeping the Realty Tower story in top headlines. This is nearly a year after individuals who fell victim to the explosions at the Realty Tower downtown decided to file a lawsuit. One lawsuit by the DoubleTree Hotel is for more than $1 million. They're claiming negligence because of the contractor who mistakenly cut the gas line, according to the report. Now, this story is still developing, so story number 6 also made it to the top 2 this week. Big story number 7 and the top 2 local headlines and developing news stories that made it this week for you to keep you informed, folks. If you do not get up this early and you do want to watch the show, get updated on what's happening around you, catch the headlines in a time capsule, I do upload the show to our YouTube page on the website on the screen. Story number 7. Let's get to the top story. Another mess in East Palestine. The Lisbon Morning Journal has a report by Stephanie Ulverd out of East Palestine. Now, the report is all about informing the public about a $600 million settlement between Norfolk Southern and the residents of East Palestine. Now, this is after 2 years of it's 2 years after the fact, and the fact that what now looks like a legal mess after the derailment, and with attorneys fighting about legal fees, as stated in the report. Now, this is after $180 million was awarded to the attorneys who worked on the deal. They're saying that this was been divided up between the attorneys. Now, the article explains how Morgan & Morgan filed a brief with the 6th Circuit in March, arguing about the quick pay provision that allowed the legal fees of $162 million plus to be paid, and an additional $18 million for expenses, and what the article says was wired into an account that was then allocated to all of the attorneys who worked on the case. Now, what got the story in is the fact that the article cites that the lawyers received their fees before the clients. Now, the article does explain the mess from both sides, and also informs the reader of what is at stake when it comes to the residents being paid. Now, the settlement of property damage, according to the report, is $70,000 per household. This story is still developing, and it is important that you fact check some of the things that are in this report, because you just have to look at it from the way it's written. The report is written. It definitely has some points where you do have to double read to make sure you get the facts right, and that's why this story is still developing. Story number 7 also made it to the top this week. Big B. Story number 8 and the top local headline and developing news story that made it this week. Extra, read all about it. News for you to keep you informed. Folks, if you do want to show some support, it does not take much. All you have to do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, or to sponsor a program. Let's get to this top story. Story number 8. Warren Mayor wants answers when it comes to Stewart Health. Pat Littlewitz has a report published May 6 explaining how Mayor Doug Franklin of Warren is calling on Dave Yost to investigate Stewart Healthcare. Now, it appears that the concern is about medical funds. The article does reveal that Stewart Health was a for-profit, which it could explain why the hospital is now in the federal bankruptcy lines. According to the report, Mayor Doug Franklin wants the Attorney General's Medical Fraud Unit to investigate Stewart's activities while in bankruptcy. Now, that's word for word as stated in the article. Now, the whole thing, the hole that this has left in the local medical system and the community is what got the story in, folks. This story is still developing. That's why story number 8 made it to the top this week. Well, folks, there are top 8 local headlines developing news stories that made this week. I'll be right back with the top 8 international headlines developing news stories. So don't you go anywhere. The Mediator, me, Brian West. I'll be right back.
Tune in and don't forget to subscribe to Method 8 Inc. YouTube channel. You can also watch free public entertainment. And don't forget to show some support by visiting www.method8inc.com by buying something, clicking something, watching something, or just reading something. You can also sponsor a program as well. That's www.method8inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
What does Method8Inc.com Media Center have that I need?
Small prints, event consulting, photography, business consulting, technical consulting, entertainment consulting, fundraising advice, event videography, movies, news, publishing, media, books, entertainment, acting, broadcasting, public relations, access to the visual and performing arts, ink and black ink refills, audio recording, graphic design, theater, minor computer and cell phone repair, and they're located at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. every Monday through Friday. The list goes on and on.
Method8Inc.com. Buy stuff, watch stuff, or read stuff.
Oh yeah! And yes, we are chipmunks.
Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top 8 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week on Mother's Day. Folks, it is Mother's Day in America. And, mothers, could you imagine? There's a lot going on in the world right now. And, you see men and women puffing their chests out in powers. It's hard to believe that they have a mother that raised them. Some of these mothers are still alive. And when you're in a leadership position and you're doing things, sometimes you do feel like you're invisible. But mama will bring you back down to earth real quick, because mama does not care about the bombs, the glitz, and the glamour. Mama wants what's owed to her, and she wants her child to be right. And when you sitting in there and you're dictating, and we're going to go on and drop the bomb, and we're going to do this and that. Mama gonna come there. Boy, you ain't going to do a damn thing to them children. Put some clothes on them babies. Don't look at me like that. You are not the president in my house. You are my son. You are my daughter. And we will not have this nonsense. Some mamas are crazy. Some mamas are queens by birth. I was in the store the other day. I heard a parent screaming at her child, "Cindy, you better put your clothes on. Put this coat on. Daddy in here. It's cold in this grocery store. You better put it on." And mother's screaming at their child. And the kids are so amazing though. They just, "Yes, ma'am." Mothers are still alive. Yeah, I was in our grocery store the other day. I was getting some yogurt from my mama just because she's battling with cancer, and me and her been going at it. But I was in a grocery store, and I heard some girl over by the refrigerator. She was hollering at her daughter. I guess she had took her jacket off, and she was showing her cleavage. She was just a baby, and the mother was, "You better put your jacket on," and showing all that little bitty cleavage. I want to say Happy Mother's Day to everybody. Mom, I wish I had a song for all the mothers, but I'm not going to torture their ears this week. I'm just going to keep the show going. So let's waste no time, folks. Happy Mother's Day. Let's get to story number 1. The history of the world's militaries that may shock you. This is an interesting story because even lesbians, gays, homosexuals, whatever you want to call it, transvestites, they have mothers too and fathers. Reuters has a report published May 6 explaining how the U.S. Supreme Court has let Trump's transgender military ban take effect, which could oust thousands of transgender troops. Now, the report also states that a federal judge has blocked Trump's ban as unconstitutional. Now, this is far from the don't ask, don't tell policy in the 90s by former President Bill Clinton. Now, at the end of this battle, it will come down to what does the LGBT community have to offer to the Department of Defense. Now, just in case you did not know, conflicts between such groups and the history of the world's militaries have been nothing new. This has been going on for a very, very long time, not before the United States was even in existence. Now, such issues have echoed throughout all of history. The story made it in because a complete ban would leave more constitutional questions and concerns. That's why story number one made it. Story number two: Putin, Russia, Zelensky, and Ukraine. Reuters has a report published May 4th thawing out the assumption that Putin would use nuclear weapons in the war with Ukraine. Now, the article says that Putin hopes that there is no need to use them, but says that Russia has the strength to finish the Ukraine operation. Now, when backtracking, this war began at a random and odd time, but could end with the world still wondering what the hell just happened in a war that may have been started to push the world out of Putin's vision or business for the former Soviet Union, Now, hundreds of thousands of soldiers have been killed, just in case you did not know, or injured, with the world still lost in Putin's war, folks. The entire incident has dragged everyone in, and a number of dealings. It means the people who have invested in this war some dealings have been made under the table without accountability, folks. This story is still developing. That's why story number two made it. Story number three: there's proof that Trump sees America from another angle. Trump continues to make some bold suggestions. That's a fact. Now, the Washington Post says that Trump wants to reopen Alcatraz. It's expensive. Now, NPR has an interesting interview by Terry Gross homing in on some internal deals that the Trump family has made while being president in the White House that really bring up the conflict of interest question and concerns. Now, the interview is from the investigator's perspective and paints the president as being powerful beyond measure, with no accountability and no oversight, and basically being allowed to do as he pleases. That's what's in the report. Now, either way, the sad reality of the new American policy seems to be shifting into another political storm of confusion, with Trump and his base leaving no other options but to carry out his vision for America by any means necessary. Now, the pendulum is swinging in so many directions, with a number of people confused about what is really taking place. Now, average everyday people can't seem to keep up. Now, Fortune says that the Trump tariffs have reportedly caused an up to 50% plummet in exports at some ports, and ends by informing the reader that goods expected to arrive in next month's time simply won't, folks. This story is still developing. That's why story number three made it. Story number four: retailers are on defense. Business Insider has a report homing in on the Rite Aid bankruptcy. The article's main focus is about the retail pharmacy industry, saying that this is the second time in less than a year that such a story has continued to show the financial woes that retailers and drugstores are facing at the moment. That's what got the story in. Now, both CVS and Walgreens are now in consolidation mode, also according to the article published by Dominique Roeder. Now, this story is still developing. That's why story number four made it this week. Well, folks, those are our top four international headlines and developing news stories that made it this week. I'll be right back. The top four. So don't you go anywhere. The Mediator with me, Brian West. I'll be right back. Welcome back. Now it's time to get to the top four international headlines and developing news stories that made this week on Mother's Day. Folks, it's sad. You know, my mother has she's just been battling through cancer. She has one more chemo left, and it's been pretty rough for her. You know, my mom is a very sweet woman, loved. When I was a kid, I used to think that she had the devil, and I think she used to have God in her at the same time, because she was a disciplinary, and watching her fight through cancer. I have watched my mother fight through life. I mean, she's been abused. She gets up. She's been talked about. She gets up. She has been at the pit of all hell, but she has somehow found a way to crawl out. And I'm not gonna lie, when I first decided to move out of the house when I was a kid, I had a face off with her, and crazily, I took the car. My mother wouldn't allow me to do. I was always had to work, clean the house, and pay the bills. And I didn't really get an allowance, but I had to pretty much be involved with the bill process. I just had responsibilities. But one time I took her car without her permission, and oh man, she faced up against me, and she looked me in the face, and Paya! Paya! That's when I knew that life was not fair. I thought I had all authority and all reason behind my manly life to use this car, and I thought I had leverage. But Mama showed me who was boss. Even at my older age, I'm not gonna lie, Mama is always still dictating. I can say whatever I want. When I get around my mother, I'm not gonna lie, I get a loose tongue and I start popping off at the mouth. Speaking in that native language of cussing and terrible language. And Mama has always found a way to take the tongue and pull it out, and threaten to chop it off if I don't pucker up and speak to her with some respect. I got a song I'm going to sing. It's called Mama Knows Best. It goes a little something like this. When you believe that you're great and greatness has taken over your world, Mama knows best. She will smack you in front of the best. She will bring you back down to the world, and most of all, to the earth. Shout out to Mama. Thank you for giving me a chance at life. And thank you for dictating who I am and what I must become. Let's waste no time, folks. Let's get to it. Story number 5. Israel's power is about to face the ultimate test. The Guardian highlights another sad truth about war. It appears that Gaza is set to be entirely destroyed. Now, and the Palestinian people have been devastated, leaving Israel and other surrounding Arab nations in another humanitarian war-ravaged situation. Now, Iran has urged the U.S. to end its support for Israel's continued strikes on Yemen. Now, the entire report paints Israel in a light outside of traditional views. The Holy Land. Is that true? Now, the fact that a biblical icon surrounded by other holy historical nations has now poured out its wrath on Hamas and other enemies after the October 7th attack that took place some time back has even left religious scholars with no prediction on how this will end. Now, as support for Israel is questionable, it appears that average everyday people just want to see an end to the conflict. Sadly, the report says that Israel is literally starving defenseless people as a war strategy to crush their enemies. Folks, this story continues to leave a lasting stain for believers who see this war as far from holy. Story number 5. Big heavy. Story number 6. Cost is on everyone's mind. Yes, it is. Fast Company has a report explaining how Trump has promised to slash energy prices. The report goes on to say that 100 days into his administration, prices have continued to rise. cost concerns is what got this story in. This story is still developing. That's why story number 6 almost made it to the top 2 this week. Everybody is talking money. Big. Story number 7 and the top 2 international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. Folks, if you don't get up this early and you do want to get updated on what is happening around you, you want to see what's in the top stories, you can check out the top 8 stories I do upload to the website on the screen on Mondays on our YouTube page. Story number 7, the federal government. Reuters has a headline published May 6 explaining how a U.S. judge has blocked Trump from shuttering 3 small federal agencies. The report's main focus seems to be all about figuring if Trump has violated the Constitution or not. Now, this is yet another story pouring attention on the actual power of the president. Now, Trump's base continues to make the claims that what Trump is doing is necessary, with others seeing Trump's moves to downsize the federal government as stupid. Folks, this story is it has left a mess, with everyone answering to Trump's vision for a new America, folks. How this will turn out is yet to be known. Story number 7 also made it to the top this week. Big. Story number 8 and the top international headline and developing news story that made this week for you to keep you informed. Folks, if you do want to show some support, it does not take much to do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, order the sponsor program, or you can stop by the store at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio. See my smiling face, buy something in the store. Story number 8, tariffs remain in top headlines. Fortune has a report explaining what is actually taking place in the trade war. The report states that President Trump's trade war has left U.S. products that would have once been sold around the world trapped in the country. The report shows a sad reality, stating that the U.S. has placed tariffs on dozens of countries who have retaliated and hampered the U.S.'s ability to trade with the rest of the world, according to the article. Now, the basic premise of the story explains how the customer is not being served and the businesses cannot meet their fulfillment obligations because of government policy, which is a serious situation. This leaves a lot of questions and concerns in an already polarized political climate. The ripple effect could leave a number of exporters, including America, with a lost revenue stream if the customer cannot be served. Folks, this story is still developing and explains the basic laws of supply and demand. Story number 8, big headline. Well, folks, there are top 8 local and international headlines and developing news stories that made this week. I hope you got something out of today's program. I always get something out of doing the research. As usual, I'd like to thank all the news outlets, the journalists, people on the front lines. You deserve all the credit. I'm just the mediator, the man in the middle, navigating your news stories just to keep people informed. If you do want to show some support, it does not take much. All you have to do is visit the website on the screen, buy something, click on something, watch something, read something, order a sponsor program. Or you can stop by the store at 5648 Market Street in Boardman, Ohio, and see my smiling face and buy something in the store. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. Have a happy Mother's Day with your mother, if she is alive or in peace. Either way, it's Mother's Day. Be thankful. Have a good week. Thank you for tuning to the Mediator this week with me, Brian West. Peace.
Have no fear, fellow citizens. The Mediator is here.